Hey everybody, today we're gonna be talking GTA. Specifically, we're gonna be talking about how, apparently, GTA has always been very gay and very progressive, since the very beginning in the 90s. Now, if that sounds like a bunch of bullshit to you, then you'd be right to be skeptical, and that's kind of what we're gonna be diving into today. I'm sure you're very aware by now of rumors circulating that the upcoming GTA 6 will have pride parades and other elements of LGBT representation. This already generated a lot of talk online before, but I didn't really cover it because it just really wasn't that interesting to me. But over the ongoing weeks and months, I've seen so much disingenuous nonsense painting GTA as something that it has never been, with ideologues trying to claim it and appropriate it alongside with some other popular games out there. And that's the bubble that we're going to be shattering today. Conveniently, another post blew up again recently into the millions of views, where much of these arguments are concentrated in. So I thought we'd get into it now before the year is out. But it might be a long video again, so, get your thermos or your ravioli. How about some ravioli today, guys, huh? Some ravioli? I mean, I don't know. You guys get whatever whatever you're in the mood for. And remember, if you find yourselves enjoying the video along the way, giving it a like really helps the channel out. Now let's jump right in there. So this is the post I mentioned, which starts with, people spent years asking for this game to be as realistic as possible. Well, LGBTQ people exist. That's realism for you. We'll be going through this framing a bit better later in the video, but first, we're gonna have to establish some things in regards to representation over the years and how corrupted it has become recently. And we're also going to be calling out some disingenuous comparisons, and then we'll circle back to the rest. I know it sounds off, fellas, but trust me, it'll be better this way, and you'll see that when we're done with the first section. Timestamps for all of the different ones will be in the top comment, by the way, so let's start. In the face of negative comments on the post, the op substantiated the original claim with, "Do people also hate Cyberpunk 2077 for having multiple trans women in the game? Do people hate Baldur's Gate 3 for allowing you to be trans?" Oh boy, we're only 2 minutes in and I already need a drink.
Me, I'm pissed.
Me too, but I don't want to you.
No, people don't hate those games, but that's because those elements on them are pointless little things that those games didn't give any focus to at all. They weren't given any special focus, they weren't substantiated. They aren't the identities of these games, and honestly, the way that this was written even misrepresents what's actually in the games themselves. Ironically, it's even pretty fitting that these are the games that are brought up. These are just good games that didn't jam-pack themselves with ideological garbage or cringe. If you were to pick actual examples that were built from the ground up with the intent of representation, glorification, and safe havens for the LGBTQIA2S++++ stuff, such as Dragon Age Veilguard, as stated by the director in the BioWare Developer's Diary, it's on screen right now, then whoops! Somehow, those aren't favorable examples to bring up anymore, now are they? Because the games suck massive balls. I wonder why. Also, multiple trans characters of Cyberpunk? What are you drunk? As far as I know, Cyberpunk 2077 has one trans character that trans activists don't even like to bring up. And the reason why they don't like this character in particular is because there is no inherent message attached to it. That character is Claire, the bartender from the afterlife. She's just a side character who very lightly and casually drops a hint that she transitioned, and it's not even upon meeting her or anything like that, it's often an optional dialogue in an optional side quest. It's a quick, small throwaway mention in a dialogue where she opens up about why she's on the revenge quest and why she needs our help to kill a target in a street race. I've talked about this character before, and people in my comments even said that they didn't realize that about the character. Really, the only big thing that even points to it and that is a bit cringe is if you do her quest, you get her car, and there's a small trans flag sticker in the back of the car. It's something that even pops out, because in a world with cyberware where men can become machines and, hell, in a way they can even become code in cyberspace, our contemporary nonsense of gender ideology isn't even a thing anymore. Like, who cares? There's even a side quest where a guy, his is made of it's a cyberware penis, and it's about to explode, and he needs a new one afterwards. You know what I mean? It's the type of thing that just doesn't matter. But whatever, it's an insignificant thing, which besides the flag is even done very well if we were to talk about what true representation would look like, because realistically, actual trans people don't flaunt around the fact that they're trans, as what they want the most is to do normal life shit. It's really this modern version of trans activism that has changed that and made it about flaunting such a private and personal thing out onto the open, and not just demand acceptance and normalization of it, but in a way, even glorification, with even wanting children to be open to it and be taught these things before they can even do goddamn calculus. At least in America. I can't say that it's happening here yet. But so anyway, that's what the issue with Claire is these days. For them, of course. She's literally too low-key. That's why Claire is not often brought up as a character that does trans representation correctly, because the modern concept of it is just put it in your face and be obnoxious out of spite. Sometimes I read comments from these people, and I don't even think that, these modern trans activists even want acceptance anymore. I think they just want to piss people off, and that's precisely the effect that they're having. So in other words, if you really want to be as real as it gets, trans activists are doing more harm to trans individuals than any bigot ever could. But sorry, let's get back on topic, even though this will come up a little bit later. The only other character that can maybe be perceived as trans is a dude named Iago from the Phantom Liberty DLC. If I mispronounce the name, there is a form that you can fill out down below and send it out to me, and I will carefully throw it in the garbage. This guy isn't even like a side character, this has an even smaller presence and interaction than Claire. He's just sort of an accountant / treasurer for the Barghest organization. He's a snaky guy. He kind of reminds me of a consigliere type of character from mafia movies or games. Let me read you guys his in-game description. If Barghest was a legit corporation, Iago would be its CFO, and his name would be on platinum-coated business cards. For now, he has to settle for the unofficial position of the organization's treasurer. He's a real number whisperer, a virtuoso accountant, and the bane of stubborn contractors. Though he may seem the odd one out in a highly militarized structure, Iago aims high and works diligently to achieve his goals. His friendly disposition is only a facade, behind which lies a cold, calculating intellect. So as you can see, there isn't anything at all about him being gay, trans, or, non-bi, there's nothing here. There's nothing here that points to this dude being anything other than just Iago, an accountant, and an asshole. The only reason why people call him, why some people, like about 13 of them, call him trans is because there's some notes that states that he was born as Iagora, not Iago. And so, for about, like I said, 13 people out there who are desperate for representation in these games, otherwise they just won't buy them at all, they took this as him being born female and then at some point transitioning, even though none of it is confirmed in the game or, pointed out by the character. And honestly, it's just a pointless thing because again, very, very small character, very small presence, very few interactions. So if for trans activists Claire wasn't good enough because she was too low-key, Iago would be even worse. But that's the beauty of the current culture shift, isn't it? A couple of years ago, trans activists could afford to be picky, because society was bending over for them at any given corner. It was being done to such a degree that they could even feel invincible. So, even if a company did trans representation but did it in a way that didn't fully satisfy their lordships, then they would moan about it online about how disrespectful it was, or maybe how tame it was, and how it's not enough, and the vagueness either means that the company is showing resistance to it or whatever. Honestly, guys, to wrap, to think about this shit and to try and describe it turns my brain into mush. But maybe if I use an example, it'll be better. So let's say that you got 007 and you want to make 007 for the modern audience. Some things are easy to represent and others are complex. So for example, if you want to just do diversity and you want to do a race swap and make James Bond black, it's easy. You just get a black actor and there you go. People go watch the movie, black James Bond walks into screen and they go, oh, he's black, and then they clap. If you want to do a James Bond that is gay, it's also pretty easy. So what you do is, you take your James Bond and then you grab another guy and you put him in the same scene and you make them kiss. And then there you go. The audience looks at that and goes, oh, he's black and gay. And they clap again. But when you go into gender territory, that's where shit starts to hit the fan. Because there are certain things that you just cannot represent without breaking the fourth wall and putting cringe into the goddamn scene. So for example, let's say that they want to make, James Bond non-binary or something. It's not that it's hard, but it's gonna be cringy as fuck. I mean, like, you can imagine, so let's say that you got the James Bond and he walks in and, and then there's a moron and the moron goes, oh my goodness, that's James Bond. Oh my god, he is so sexy. And then, if I, James Bond kind of just go, excuse me, actually, it's they them for you. And of course the audience, they go, oh my god. Of course, also I forgot, they get the other character to go, oh my god, I'm so sorry, oh my god, all that shit. And if it's a trans character, it's even worse because you can't even use, the cringe is going to be guaranteed, but you can't even have the simplicity of just, excuse me, I am they them now. You can't do that. Because they're binary, and so then you have two options, or two types of options. You can do something that is just blatant and it's in your face, like a piece of dialogue, like, actually, I used to be J. Linda Bond, but now I'm a man. Some bullshit like that, or you can, do something subtle. Like, I don't know, I'm not a screenwriter, but maybe the villain would be going through some files, trying to find some dirt on James Bond, and you would see a file where it said Jane Bond, and it was a woman on the picture or whatever, and then, it's up to the audience to figure out, oh, well, what does this mean? Does it mean that he's been spying as a woman? Or oh, is he trans? Oh, some shit like that. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a screenwriter. But anyway, yeah, that brings us back to the point, which is subtlety was not viewed in a good way. Subtlety was, viewed in a way where these companies were showing resistance to truly get in audience's face with this kind of thing. Representation can't just be a little aspect of the character anymore. It had to be more. It had to be a whole basket of shit. That's why things like this picture right here exist. This is from GDC. I've shown it in the past two videos. Sorry for repeating the same thing again, but I mean, it's perfect, isn't it? Because this is all about teaching developers how to write and represent these characters to be as obnoxious as possible and to have as much of their identities and of their personal stories, their personal quirks, and even the very things that they do in the game be representative of their queerness. Including even if it's just like a gay character. So basically, going back to our practical example here with 007, even if it was just to make a gay character, you couldn't just present it with like two men in a relationship. You'd have to go above and beyond. You'd have to literally take time away from the movie itself and, remove things if you had to, just to make sure that you had space in there to represent other facets of the character's homosexuality, whichever that would be. Like, I don't know, maybe he'd go into his closet, the closet would be massive, and there'd be a bunch of clothes, and you would just be in there for like 3-4 fucking hours trying to pick which socks to take, which boots to take. I don't know, like, I don't know. I wish I knew, but I'm not gay. You guys are gonna have to tell me about that shit in the comments. Okay, we just lost 10 subscribers. But for the love of God, let's get out of this nonsense and just get back to the main topic, okay? Which is the culture shift. What matters is they felt so invincible that they could even afford to complain about it if it wasn't good enough of a representation. And now they've been so completely shattered by the unpopularity of these pieces of media that went way too far with this ideology that they'll take whatever they can get. Even the random dude who cut 2 letters out of his name and could have very plausibly done so just as a nickname in a criminal organization. After all, that's what Barghest is in the Cyberpunk DLC. The only other thing in Cyberpunk 2077 was this poster. I blurred it a bit down there because, there's there's an eggplant sort of thing in there, you know what I mean? So this is something that blew up years ago already, before the game even came out, and believe it or not, the biggest noisemakers about this weren't even the supposed grifters and incels of the anti-woke community. It was progressive people and game journalists screeching and calling CD Projekt Red transphobic because of how how over-sexualized it was, how it objectified trans people and all that. Man, I remember how much shit they were, they caught back then. CD Projekt Red, bro, they were hounded by game journalists. They were even hounded and called racist for their depiction of the Voodoo Boys. This was also before the game came out. Game journalists called them, harmful stereotypical representations, or rather misrepresentations, of Haitian people, even though Haitian people themselves loved it and found it authentic. Which makes sense, of course, because CD Projekt Red hired Haitian consultants to make sure that it was authentic. Classic triggered punk SJW journalists making hassles over nothing was all that this was, and as it pertains to the poster, it was the same thing. This is yet another funny instance of something that is so vastly different now, 4 or 5 years later than it was then in 2019. Nowadays, something like this would be seen as brave and stunning iconography. I mean, hell, some of those pride parades even go full commando in front of everyone. I don't know about that personally, of course, one of you guys told me in the comments. So anyway, back then, it was supposedly disrespectful and objectified. And, that's just the thing with this, someone seriously needs to study what the hell happened during COVID, because it's kind of crazy how much more extreme things got and how much things like these change in terms of perspective. But anyway, sorry for taking so long with the Cyberpunk 2077 example, it's just that it's so disingenuous and it requires context to really see past the trans characters. Also, what we talked about now will come up later, so that's like 5 birds throughout the rest of the video with 1 rant. As for Baldur's Gate 3, it's even more laughable because you couldn't mess around with this identity stuff when the game came out. The options for more genders came in a post-launch update. That's the epitome of something being a total afterthought. So why is Baldur's Gate 3 so good? Why do so many like it? Well, because it's a great RPG game, that's it, no more, no less. It's a great game with a lot of freedom. The additional choices put in for those players to roleplay after launch was just an addition, and by roleplay I mean like if you wanted to do, the non-binary type of thing. If all LGBT related things came as additions in video games, there would be far less drama about them than there is right now. If studios made a fantastic game first, that is aimed at their core audience primarily, all the fans of whatever that is, and then they added some inclusion elements, there would be a whole lot less problems than there are right now. It's not to say that everything would be perfect, because honestly, some things just don't need any inclusion. Like, it's just the stupidity behind it that I hate. It's this idea that, say you have a sci-fi video game franchise, that shit is already inclusive to everyone. Like, if you're gay or trans, there's no sign outside the door or a warning in a digital store that says, hey, you can't buy it. You like sci-fi? Yes? Great, get the fuck in there. That'll be $60.
Got a pencil? Get the fuck in there. It's physics.
Like, that's it. That's as easy as it should be. But sadly, we're undergoing an age of mental retardation. That's how games like Dragon Age Veilguard get made, and that's how Dungeons & Dragons ends up being marketed with trash like this instead of something more appropriate. It's because when you're in game development or in the development of any type of entertainment at all, you have 2 modes of thinking and a whole spectrum in between. You got the desire to make the best damn game you can with escapism in mind, or you can focus on your goddamn contemporary politics and ideology. Veilguard is a good example of what happens when you focus on that shit. The closer a director or a company or a team's focus is to this side of the spectrum, the more fucked a game will be. Even if the game is smooth as butter, even if there's no bugs, no glitches, no nothing, there's still going to be a bunch of noise about it. The closer it is to this other side though, the better the game will be and the happier people will be too. Baldur's Gate 3 fits around this area, that's why it works so well. What bothers people the most is when they're not given choices in what to engage with, and when the very core of the product is corrupted in some way. I gave a lot of examples about this in my Veilguard breakdown videos. Some of you who have been around for longer here on the channel will probably remember, the whole thing about Thieves Guild not being an actual Thieves Guild, the Wardens no longer being truly what the Wardens represented, etc., because everything is painted over with a soft brush. It's like a game on eggshells. The game doesn't want you to hurt yourself or some shit. Baldur's Gate 3 does not feel that way. It's just freedom. You wanna be gay? Be gay. You want to be the Dark Lord? Be the Dark Lord. Next up, we'll be going through supposed LGBT representation in GTA games, which will flow perfectly from some of the things laid out in the Cyberpunk section. So some commenter says, it's going to make a lot of people mad, and I hope it does. The Op responds with, I hope so. GTA has always had some LGBTQ rep. Do you guys see what I mean with what I said before about these people not even wanting normalization and acceptance anymore? They just want adversity, noise, radicalizations. I'll get to the gay representation in GTA in just a second, let me just rant for a bit. Like realistically, in a situation like this, what is even, like what's the answer? Like what do I even say? I'm someone who doesn't want those things to happen. I'm someone who hates the current movement because I was alive long enough to see harmony setting in, to see conversations being had, to see some normalcy where even if you were gay, it isn't a big deal. But now we're going backwards. Animosity and intolerance is on the rise, and it's all because of this radicalization right here. It's because of these attitudes. It's because of the push from radical activism, you know, that sort of, hey, we're here and we're gonna put it on your face because corporations, education, government, etc. are not only on our side, they're giving us full immunity to do and push whatever the fuck we want. So either get used to it or get the out. I'm a very big fan of the live and let live mentality, but this is just narcissism and spite. I believe this is why so many modern characters that are meant to represent LGBT are so obnoxious and unfitting as opposed to the ones in the past that didn't even come off as representation. They more often than not just felt natural because they were still normal characters. But to the people who want to piss other people off, normalcy doesn't do. It has to be overt, eccentric, and clash with what society would consider normal. I'm really not a fan of this confrontational way of thinking because it pushes people to be controversial and cross lines. And sometimes lines are there for a good reason, like just common civility. For example, just off the top of my head, one of the things that pride parades tend to get criticized on is when people go out there naked or wearing provocative outfits. And then if you complain about it, it's like, oh, well, here we go again, you're a bigot of some kind. But the damn response is the same if it was straight people doing the same thing. Like, you're not crossing a line because you're gay, you're just crossing a basic civility line that is generally disliked, and in some places even illegal, when out in public. And this is just a micro example of a lot of what sadly got associated with LGBTQ plus or pride representation in general and supposed rights. Some things are just better kept private behind closed doors. Nobody would want a random gooner parade either. Doesn't mean we want to ban or oppress 18 plus content or whatever in society, just means that it's one of those things you don't proudly wear like a goddamn badge and put out onto the world as a personality trait. I just wish less people acted like these two because this is not a good direction to go down. Like me, someone who just wants to urge people to chill out reading this, it's just like,
you don't want to be like this.
But anyway, back to GTA. So a funny narrative we see nowadays is that GTA has always actually been woke. Yeah, GTA, the game series that did satire and parodies of many facets of our reality, including ones that had SJW screeching about how offensive it was, is now having its history revision to, oh, actually, it's always been woke. Bitch, no it hasn't. The very last entry in the goddamn games made a total parody of LA, woke capital of the goddamn planet, with every other NPC being a soy latte drinking the roasting of Hollywood, the roasting of veganism, the condescension to exaggerative, effeminate or gay characters, the parody of swindlers and gang culture, the mockery of empowered feminism, etc. Like, what are we doing here? And this was back in 2013, before the crazier side of ideological bullshit took off. GTA hasn't ever been woke or anti-woke for that matter. It's a satire and parody of our world, which meant that everyone caught shit. I don't know how the next entry in the GTA series is going to go like. Honestly, there's been a lot of weird news surrounding it. People leaving the studio, the people hiring for the studio, and of course all around us several franchises that went to shit over the last 5 years. But the history of GTA? Oh, buddy, no, we're not going to be having any revisionism around here. One of the things some crazies on Twitter have been using as evidence of the series being woke is this clip from GTA 4 where, you know what, I'll just play it and we'll talk about it after.
What's going on?
Come in, come in. The haters are trying to kill me. I can't stand it. I won't stand it. It's not fair. I'm just being me.
Bernie, what are you talking about?
I came to this country to be myself. To get away from small-minded, angry, macho pricks!
Oh, like me.
Yes! Well, no. Well, you know what I mean.
Why is he threatening you?
Because... I think just because I'm fabulous.
What?
I'm a prisoner in my own home.
Okay, Bernie, let's go out and have a look.
Ooh, I'm so glad you've come back into my life.
That's cool. But listen, you and I don't know each other.
How can you say that? I thought you were different.
Because we want this guy to attack you. Come on.
Hey there. I'm about done with you! Ah! Ah! Oh!
Why don't you pick on someone who'll fight back?
What's your problem, lover?
Whatever you say, buddy. Unfortunately, for hitting my friend, I'm going to kick the shit out of you.
Can we stop with the fat jokes, Florian?
It's Bernie now. After I came here, I wanted a complete change, so I became Bernie Crane. I'm sorry about the fat thing. You're still kind of cute.
Gee, thanks.
What are you doing here?
Well, I'm a lifestyle coach, and I teach an aerobics class, and I'm in love. He's married. It's so doomed.
So, that was Florian. Florian was a gay character in GTA 4. The context for that character is it was one of Nico's old war buddies from the old country. The story of GTA 4 is badass. Nico and a group of boys from his village were soldiers in the Civil War.
When the war came, I did bad things. And after the war, I thought nothing of doing bad things. I killed people, smuggled people, sold people.
And you don't worry about your soul?
After you walk into a village and you see 50 children all sitting neatly in a row against the church wall, each with their throats cut and their hands chopped off, you realize that the creature that could do this doesn't have a soul.
God is very complicated. You mustn't give up hope.
Well, I don't know about that.
If my memory serves, 3 people survived and made it out. Nico was one of them, and then 2 others. The rest were wiped out because of a betrayal. Nico goes to Liberty City to find the traitor, chasing after one of them who flew there, Florian. When he meets Florian, he learns that Florian is innocent and is now a very modern, very flamboyant gay man. He flew to Liberty City to start fresh and be himself, fully embrace his effeminate nature, even though in some scenes and instances, the old Florian comes out where his voice even changes a bit, showing that much of this is an act. Not all of it, of course, and not an act because he's not really like this and is a spy or whatever, but more so a way to fake the persona that he sees himself as and wishes to become in this very modern, very progressive place that is Liberty City, where gay men can live their lives largely unhindered, especially when in comparison to the more traditional and intolerant countries that they came from. This is in no way a respectful or empowering or, woke representation of gay men. Florian is written as a comic relief type of character, but a likable one rather than one fit for mockery like, for instance, a bumbling villain. He is extremely flamboyant, his mannerisms are, gay plus, you know what I mean? Like, they aren't even just gay, they're the premium subscription of gay. He's a literal stereotype cranked to 11. He can't even defend himself. Nico is the one who has to do it for him, and that is the one part where the game does a good turn for the character while also keeping Nico's personal honor and personality intact. It is by merely making Nico act like a normal old friend of Florian who still sees him for, being just Florian. He's visibly uncomfortable when Florian starts to act out and compliment his cheekbones, especially when he reaches as if to touch them, but he's still his friend and is not what the kids on the block would call homophobic. Know what I mean? Even though I'm sure woke people would call it homophobia to be uncomfortable towards Florian complimenting Nico's face, while at the same time demonizing straight men for complimenting women. So I'm not even going to go into the hypocrisy and idiocy from that kind of shit. What these morons think, really doesn't matter. What matters is what the character is actually doing. And in conclusion, Nico is not framed as homophobic. He helps his old friend Florian, who is being stalked in the park while he runs. God, even the running animation was made to be gay plus. Like, bro, that's gay premium. Florian was a soldier and now he acts, well, like that. So, Nico is cool with him, despite some uncomfortable body language in some scenes, and Florian is a total parody of super effeminate gay men. Something light and comedic, but not inherently disrespectful or antagonistic. It's kind of like how Neil Patrick Harris in the show How I Met Your Mother was depicted as a stereotypical douchebag, ultra-straight dude bro who banged all the chicks, called none of them back, and had various mannerisms that made him a loser, and a status that made him a sad character in comparison to Marshall and Lily, who were painted as the perfect couple who settled down and lived happily ever after. In other words, totally normal shit in entertainment back in the 2000s that nowadays is either too offensive to some soy jacks on Reddit, or that needs to be taken over by activist writers to make sure that they can inject some socio-political commentary into it for
the message.
But just as it was with Claire from Cyberpunk, where not that long ago Florian was seen as a mockery and as a harmful depiction of gay characters that never came up, like these people never use this as an example because they know that it's not something to take pride in. Now it's being appropriated as a win for the brain-rotted ideologue community out there who can't even figure out what their identities and values are anymore. I don't like to take games and present characters or scenes to show that they prove that the developers, or even worse, the characters, agree with me and my political views or whatever. That's not what I'm doing here at all, because number one, that's cringe, and number two, it goes against what I stand for, which is a total removal of real-world political or ideological biases from being put into games. So what I'm doing here while talking about GTA is just counterattacking this ridiculous notion that GTA has ever been woke, as they like to say. GTA is just GTA, a game series with funny characters that often were depictions of stereotypes, and they did this shit for everything, without any biases or inclinations towards a goddamn thing. Hell, even gamers got stereotypically depicted as James, Michael's son in GTA 5. And much like most roast sessions within GTA games, they had two sides. A part that is mocked, such as him sitting in his room in the dark playing a parody of Call of Duty, which ironically now looks more like Call of Duty than actual Call of Duty, smoking weed, being fat, lazy, slow, a loser, etc. But at the same time, being just a normal kid who needs better friends and a stronger paternal figure in his life, rather than an angry drunk who blanks out. That's GTA for you. Some funny shit, some real shit, and sometimes weird predictions that come true. But woke? The chud game that retarded game journalists demonized for decades? Nah man, come on, give me a break. Oh crap, this video is getting really long, but I just remembered another one. Another example that these retards like to bring up is one of the DLCs of GTA 4, named The Ballad of Gay Tony, because of its name, which is yet another piece of media that doesn't pander to any gay people or push any LGBT agendas. It's just literally you working for a gay nightclub owner who happened to be one of the guys involved with the diamonds. An easy thing to forget about GTA 4 is how there was a whole subplot in regards to some very illegal diamonds that happened to be transported in the very same ship that Nico used to cross over to America. Nico himself got involved with the diamonds in his story, but it was more of a side plot. But then the diamonds were used in full for this DLC, and then an overarching plot that also tied together the other DLC, Lost and Damned. To save time, I won't go through everything in regards to the Ballad of Gay Tony, just a quick description to prove my point. Tony's nightclub is going under due to having massive debts to the mob. This moves Luis, the guy we play as, who works for Tony as a bouncer and later straight up private security or even a fixer, to get into illegal dealings such as running drugs with his Dominican friends, stealing expensive vehicles for a rich Arab guy who was honestly a wild character in this game. I can't even play my favorite clip of his because he drops the Nintendo word and I'm not so sure how that would fly on YouTube in current years, so let's move on. Later they get involved with the whole diamond bullshit, and that's when everything ramps up. A lot of killing, a lot of stealing, kidnappings, potential betrayals, etc. Even a direct clash against Nico, who in his own story, throughout the campaign of GTA 4 was working for other people interested in the diamonds. So a whole lot of stuff, and none of it at all to do with Tony's sexuality. Not even a fucking fraction. In fact, the main sexual thing I remember in this DLC was that we could rizz up the bartender girl and this was obviously not a woke game, this was obviously not LGBT representation, this was really just gaming at its best, where we just had good-ass diverse but authentic characters fully dedicated to the stories being told. Characters like Tony Prince are examples that the games industry has always had this sort of natural diversity and never needed women like Anita Sarkeesian from the first Gamergate or retarded game journalists or activists and narrative consultants like we have now interfering with games that we play, trying to LARP as revolutionaries, making changes to the games industry pretending as if it has always been racist, sexist and homophobic. These people, they just disgust me because they believe in nothing. Everything exists solely to be shifted to serve their purpose. For example, the games industry is incredibly bigoted when it has to be in order for them to push their activism, but at the same time, oh no, guys, actually, this isn't activism at all, this is just normal stuff because look, this 16-year-old GTA game already had LGBT representation. The industry has always been diverse. So which the fuck is it? Is the games industry a cesspit of bigotry, misogyny, homophobia, so on and so forth? Or has it always been inclusive? Don't ever hope or expect to receive a real answer from these people about any of this. They will only ever twist shit to fulfill whatever purposes serves them and nothing else. That's why I give zero regards to any of them. Zero quarter. This is why they need to be ousted from studios and back to the cringy, annoying, insignificant voices they always represented. Not because of their identity, not because of any ism or any phobia, but because they are unhinged fake fucks who don't even play video games. They just want entertainment as a whole to bend down to them, and that's it. Now on to the next point. On another instance, someone named Basic says, if the game fails all because of them adding pride parades and the like, then that probably says more about the GTA community than the game itself. First, just to quickly address this, there's so many people who play GTA, like, it's an absurd amount. I don't think there's a GTA community, okay? I think it's just people who play video games at this point. But anyway, it all depends on what is being added and why. We just talked about Florian and Tony Prince and how they were just good individual characters like every other character in those games, serving their purpose in their stories. We also talked about how Claire is a totally normal character that, besides a small flag in the back of an optional truck, doesn't really push any modernisms or politicisms into the plot or even her own characterization. And also Iago, I guess, who's just a fucking accountant, so if he was supposed to be an LGBT representation character, it was done in the most realistic way possible where nobody gives a fuck who he is or was or who or what he chooses to bang or when he was. You get what I'm saying? Realistically, that's how it works, because in real life, that's how it is. I don't have to know these deeply personal and private things about anyone's identity or sexual life. None of it matters, it's just people, externally. And in these games, none of that matters either. They're just characters. It's the obsession with sexuality and gender ideology that muddies the water and turns things political. And they are political. The op here tries to argue that the LGBT thing is a civil rights movement, not a political movement. But wake the fuck up. It's a political movement, okay? And it was turned political by hardcore activists like this, not by normal people. It's not that being gay is a political thing, it's because it's connected to this flag now. And this flag represents a lot of politics, a lot of which are very controversial, such as self-ID laws, laws in regards to privacy, specifically when it comes to women's spaces, regulations when it comes to women's sports, literal politically driven initiatives such as diversity quotas, so on and so forth. If Rockstar just puts random spots where there might be gay people assembling and doing parades, like for example as a random encounter type of thing in the world, I don't think it'll be a big deal. You'll always find people online complaining or modding it out, just as you'll also find people online praising it as if it was a revolutionary moment in human history, like, oh my god, how amazing and brave, a pride parade in a GTA game. But inherently, it won't be an issue that would tank the game. I've actually seen the opposite. I've seen people say how they want it to happen. They want there to be these parades so that they can screw with them since it is a GTA game. And this is something that really bothers some people. people, including the op here, and makes them feel really, I don't know, like terrified and disgusted of people. And in my view, there is nothing more telling about how disconnected these people are from the concept of gaming and even GTA than this shit. I mean, it's a Grand Theft Auto game. The body count in these games is astronomical. People have been plowing through crowds and causing mayhem in these open worlds since the inception of the damn franchise. But now, suddenly, just because it is directed at gay NPCs rather than unlabeled NPCs that could be anything else, including gay, it's a problem? Now it's a disgusting and depraved thing to do? Newsflash, it's a video game. It's GTA. None of it is disgusting or depraved, it's not real. But anyway, regardless of that specifically, in this weak-ass culture where everyone gets triggered at everything and where game journalists are salivating waiting for something to happen so that they can once again put their hatred of gamers on full display or write another hit piece on a company, I doubt that Rockstar is going to be adding any pride parades out in the open world, free to be interacted with. If they truly have a confirmed parade in the game, it's either going to be something else that happens in a cutscene only, or it's going to be in a linear story mission where we can't interact with it or we fail. For example, in GTA 5 when we play as policemen to go and steal 2 sports cars and we can't go anywhere else or do anything that cops wouldn't do until we actually have the cars in our control. Now, the Ops reply to that last one was yet another example of being so ideologically captured that it's hopeless. The response was, yeah, besides, gay people helped make the game. Yeah, so? The fuck does that even have to do with anything? What other nugget of information do you have for us? Hey look guys, grass is green? A gay developer is just a developer. It doesn't mean that the games automatically have to be gay. What even is this? Like holy crap dude, the brain rot is devastating. I don't know where the f these people came from. Like honestly, 500 years ago, these are the people who'd basically never make it past 9 years old. Cause someday they would just fall into a ravine or some shit while out picking berries. I miss the days where game developers were just game developers and that was it. Nobody cared about any identity nonsense beyond that. Like you were just a game developer and you made games. That's it. Rather than these new classifications where you're a queer game developer and so now you belong in these separate boxes, such as the You Be Proud box that represents LGBT people, or the Pride PlayStation that does the same thing over at these companies, or the many developers of color that go into the same little separate boxes and are referred to in specific projects because, oh, we must check in with the DEI division and make sure that we are checking all the right boxes and not offending anyone. Bro, what happened to this hobby I love, huh?
What happened to the hobby I love, bro? I'm just trying to play some good games, bro. That's it. That's all I'm trying to do.
All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy.
It was all going so well before the identity grifters came in, but anyway, look, I'll even give you a practical example. This is Tim Kaine. He's gay. And he's one of the original developers that made Fallout. And yet, Fallout was the furthest thing away from gay identity matters. It was just a great role-playing game set in the nuclear post-apocalypse with mutants, monsters, ghouls, and all manner of other gritty and disturbing realities. And why is that? Well, because Tim Kaine was, above all, a random dude. A nerdy dude. A dude who just wanted to make a cool game with his other buddies, who were also, above all else, normal nerdy dudes. Which are all things that have no bearing on anyone's sexuality whatsoever. I swear dude, this hyperfixation on identity is a poison, and it's so boring too. Like this has to be the most boring and insignificant detail about a person, and yet it's the one they give relevance to the most. In this last section of the video, I'll just note down some more or less standing idiocies that weren't worthy of their own section in this video. Over here we have a nice slice of irony. Gorfang says, there's literally a DLC called The Ballad of Gay Tony and it's quite possibly the best one. If anyone pretends this was never a thing, they never played the series. It's funny because by the comment you can tell that this retard is the one that never played the goddamn DLC. If he had, he'd realize that it had nothing at all to do with Tony Prince's sexuality. It's just a stylish name for the DLC, instead of some boring shit like, I don't know, diamonds and bullets. Tony Prince is gay. Oh, make no mistake of that. This man, look at him, 100% gay.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
Tony, what do you think?
Desi wouldn't let me dress like that, huh?
See what I mean?
Come to think of it, Lou, what the fuck are you wearing, huh?
What?
Go home and take a bath. Do nothing else. Put on some clothes, huh?
Yeah, I had a complicated day, okay?
It doesn't really matter though, it's not a part of the plot. There's no message for the audience, just a tale of mob bosses, illegal diamonds, drugs, guns, and ultimately, loyalty. The GTA community, as they like to say, don't have a problem with this. None of this has ever been an issue. Even using recent examples, we have Dion from Final Fantasy XVI, which I never heard people mocking and demeaning and shitting all over it like they did with characters from Veilguard. Because characters from Veilguard are made with lists like these, and characters like Dion are just normally conceived characters. On another note, Bagrital says LGBTQ as a whole will be finished before 2030, and the op did not like that at all. How? Gay people will continue to exist, it's a normal human thing. And I would even agree with that. But Bagrital might be right, because we're not talking about gay people here. The LGBTQ tag itself is no longer representative of like just the existence and normalization of the concept of someone being gay, and honestly I think the op knows this and is being disingenuous on purpose, because they know that being gay or bi is the least controversial thing when it comes to this movement. But they also know that that's not where the movement stops. It has gone well beyond that and into crazier things, some of which I described earlier in this video. There's already gay and bisexual people even pushing for a new movement called LGB, as in removing the TQIA2S+++ stuff that have nothing to do with sexual orientation and are the things causing most of the ideological problems and clashes with societal norms, such as self-ID stuff, privacy in women's spaces, so on and so forth. So in general, the rainbow and the whole pride thing has been getting associated with a lot of problems, a lot of drama, and even outside of these associations tend to present a certain fatigue to normies nowadays who have been getting bombarded with it in every other show or every other movie and other facets of society as well for a solid 5 years now. You know, I made a joke about this before in my D&D video, so I'll even clip it and put it right here. Look. Let's be as best faith as possible. Imagine you're just some guy named John Normie, and you're a really chill dude. You don't like to get into controversies, you're a very down-to-earth guy, you don't like getting into trouble, and similarly you don't like bad vibes. So one day you're perusing your favorite fantasy providers like Dungeons and Dragons here, and you see some very clearly, very overtly woke thing, like this picture here, and even with the same kind of nice inclusive message saying, in this realm, your story is yours to tell. And since you're just a nice chill guy and you have nothing against any groups at all, you see this and you even smile and give it a like, because again, you're a chill guy. You don't think there's anything wrong about your favorite D&D page doing a nice inclusive post towards the LGBTQIA2S55G+++ crowd. Maybe you even see a couple of people in the comments being rude and gatekeepy about the hobby, and you even step up and go, hey guys, come on, it's just a piece of artwork, chill. There's nothing wrong with it. D&D is for everyone, because again, you're just such a nice chill guy. But then next time your favorite page posts again, it's another piece in this style and this vibe. And then later on it happens again. The same style and the same vibe. And then you go and you subscribe to Disney Plus because they tempted you with a free month and, you know, you want to check out some Marvel and Star Wars shows, and lo and behold, the same shit in the same style and the same vibe are popping up there too. But no problem, because you just heard about a Lord of the Rings show being made by Amazon, and as a D&D fan, Lord of the Rings is your everything. It's what got you into it when you were a child. It's why you go back to rewatch every single year when fall season rolls around. So of course you cancel your Disney Plus subscription because you're not retarded, and you get one for Amazon so you can watch Rings of Power. And lo and behold, they infected the Holy Grail as well. The same shit with the same themes and the same vibes and the same resulting problems from it, such as bad writing, bad presentation, no respect for the lore, etc. are sneaking into there too. And while looking it up online, maybe you even got to see some of the articles from Access Media calling Lord of the Rings problematic and racist because there's no diversity and inclusion in it. Or alternatively, because some retarded college professor decided to, out of his own volition and through his own overcooked mind, call the orcs of Lord of the Rings the equivalent to people of color. Again, this is what they are doing, not me. But anyway, it's not just attacking the franchise either, by the way, it's also attacking John normies like yourself who didn't like the show, who dropped comments or maybe even videos complaining about all the mischaracterizations, the lore problems, and overall bad writing. None of this matters to them, as all they do is make hit pieces of fans like yourself calling you toxic, misogynistic, and racist just for criticizing the show with zero regard for any valid criticism at all. So I don't know, maybe now you're not such a chill guy anymore, maybe now you're a bit miffed about the situation, maybe now you scoff whenever you see your favorite D&D page posting the same shit because at this point you're noticing that it isn't a little wink and a nod to the LGBT, Samsung, HD TV, 4K, HDR, whatever the fuck community, and not just for inclusivity and stuff, but now it's looking more like your favorite franchises and indeed the wider genre surrounding it are being hijacked and changed at a core level by activists who don't understand the brand, don't understand the content, don't understand the appeal, and most importantly, don't care about it either. Maybe now you're noticing that the most noteworthy brands that once upon a time led the genre and these franchises are all being overtaken by this shit and all putting out the same kinds of designs and content in the same vein. And so you say, hey, screw it, and you go and you play some video games instead because, hey, video games are that old faithful that have always made you happy and helped you escape the ills of the modern world. You hear about a new game that just came out and it's Dragon Age Veilguard. You're very excited because you played Dragon Age Origins, you played Dragon Age 2, and you played Dragon Age Inquisition. You've been following the story. You love it, you're invested, and you want to see where it goes and how it concludes. So you buy it and you play it, and holy fuck, it's the biggest bullshit fiesta you've ever seen. Once again, here we are, the same shit polluting the movie industry, the comic book industry, the streaming industry, the tabletop industry, and just about anything else under the damn sun is in the games industry too, and one of your favorite dark fantasy franchises just got co-opted into the battlefield. And the poison works the same way as it did for all of those things before, where it's a change at the core fundamental level, where they can't even just do classical fantasy with the addition of gay relationships, which were already there originally anyway since Dragon Age Origins, or something where it's like, oh hey look, this is a side character who happens to be a Cunithlock. No, they went hard and fast. So the character isn't a Cunithlock, they're the same thing that TikTokers are cringe posting about back here, in the shitty modern day reality you're trying to escape from.
I'm non-binary.
Carrying the exact same heavy, divisive political subjects. The world has changed and can't be dark fantasy anymore because dark fantasy is too dark, so assassins and thieves and shit like that don't exist anymore. Wardens are just friendly little soldier people, rather than the hardy warriors tainted by darkspawn blood where more than half of them even die from the ritual alone. And dark magic can't be used by the player or anyone in the party because it's bad, and your party members sound like retarded millennial adult children rather than people facing down tyrannical gods trying to end the world. So on, so forth, you get my point, especially if you've been a fan of the channel for a while now. So at this point, maybe you ran out of chill entirely, maybe you can't take it anymore, and now every time that you see this sludge that rotted your favorite franchises in your favorite genre of entertainment, you kinda just tell the truth about how you feel instead of swallowing it up in the name of, you know, just being tolerant and nice and kind and all of this other stuff. And maybe now you join in on the gatekeeping rather than trying to be a nice, chill guy, because you realize that being a chill guy didn't do anything, because no amount of inclusivity was ever enough, because it was never about inclusivity in the first place. It was about taking over and changing the whole damn thing. And so there we go, this is what happens, this is why there's less and less normies defending shit like this, and actually more and more of them hitting their limits and going, you know what? No, actually, this does suck. It is not Dungeons and Dragons, it is not fantasy, and it is in fact crayon-painted shit. And So it is realistic to assume that at some point some of these companies out there may just stop associating with this symbolism that exists currently, and maybe a new one will be born that is much more tame. But whatever happens, I really hope that, you know, people who exist in these fringes, in these groups, you know, people who are gay, people who are bi, even people who are trans, will grow to be more cautious of their own extremism, and especially of the companies that would take advantage of them for profit, because at the end of the day, that's where a lot of their problems have come from. It's not from bigots on the internet saying bad things. Bigots on the internet saying bad things have been there since fucking forever. It's the way that companies and activists have used these labels, these symbolisms, these flags, these tags, etc. for their own profits and for their own machinations that it ended up in there being so much trouble associated with it. Be wary of who you invite into your home and who you tether yourself to. Big ass corporations are not your friends. And I believe that now with the ascension of AI, there's going to be a big shock coming to these, you know, wokey communities, because no matter how much they scream about, oh, AI bad, these companies are not going to care. They're going to keep pushing for AI. They're not going to give a fuck anymore, because AI is proving to be a much more profitable venture than pandering to the LGBTQIA2S+++, diversity, equity, inclusion, whatever the fuck, etc, etc, etc nonsense. There's much more that could be said about this topic, you know, and I do wish that there was more opportunities to do so. That's why this video is ending up being so long. But I'll be cutting it very soon. The rest of the discourse here was just mired in more awkward things like this. For example, this dude's meme about LGBT propaganda being so pervasive in Western media, to which the op responds with, "Gay people have always existed." Like, yeah, that's not what the meme is about though. We're talking about propaganda. Do you see how they keep disingenuously doing that? Basically using gay people as a scapegoat, or rather not a scapegoat, more like a shield counter. It's like if somebody is breaking into your house and you come out with your gun like, "Hey, what the fuck?" And they just turn to you like, "Whoa, what's with a gun? You against gay robbers or something?" Then you go to court and your jury panel is this one right here. And you go to jail. In that same vein related to propaganda, we also had this guy write, "Reality is exclusive, not inclusive. Inclusivity needs to be manufactured." To which the op replies, "What sort of nonsense is that? Go outside, you'll find gay people, lesbians, trans people. Media has to manufacture exclusion because rich white men are intolerant of minorities." And guys, you know, this shit is kinda like Florian from GTA. Florian is the premium subscription of gay, and this shit right here is the premium subscription of delusion. First of all, if you go out there traveling the world, what you'll actually discover is that white men are the most tolerant people in the fucking planet. Homosexuality was in a state of normalization, and even now it's still in that state. This would never happen anywhere else. These people have spent their entire formative years being bullshitted by the same system of propaganda they now contribute to, into believing that white people and Western civilization is their enemies, and our terrible societies rooted in terrible things and inherently oppressive systems, when in reality, it is our societies that give the most people, the most freedom, the most comfort, and the best chance at a dignified life. And when it comes to gay people, it's incomparable to other societies. White societies are the most accepting there goddamn are, and that's just number one. Number two, this person lives in such a fucking delusive state that they don't even realize what reality really is like when people go outside. When most of us go outside, the reality we see is just normal motherfuckers walking around. We don't know whether they're straight or gay, and never mind trans, because on one hand, they are a very small minority, and number two, when you're actually trans, your goal is to, blend in, look like you pass, and go about your life. These people, they see these marches online, they see these retards on TikTok, and they think that, legitimately, that's how the world works, and that's how most people look like. So you go outside in most places in the world and you don't see shit. Like this isn't a video game or your fucking Discord server, where everyone is posting selfies of their colorful outfits of the day and pride flags for day 931 of being cripplingly unemployed. And number three, the other dude was right. I don't know exactly what the reality is exclusive means, so I'm scratching that off, but inclusivity absolutely must be manufactured to do what these people want it to do, which is injected through diversity quotas. Real life isn't a goddamn woke graph. There are more LGBTQ+ characters in media than we are ever going to meet in real life. And we have actually already reached a ridiculous point where we're taking these quotas for representation and injecting them into medieval fantasies. I mentioned Veilguard earlier. That's a blatant example of that crap. Inclusivity has become so forced that we got a fucking character with horns on her head because she's of a literal different race of people in the world of dragons, elves, magic, etc., coming into a goddamn scene and having a coming out talk with her mother, literally saying, "So, I'm non-binary," as if that shit was meant to mean anything in that world, and choosing which pronouns to use. Even her language in that moment was blatantly modern, completely indistinguishable from what a kid these days would say to their friends on a goddamn Blue Sky post. I use they instead of she now. That is the most contemporary nonsense any writing team could have ever come up with, and they put it in a fantasy world where it just doesn't goddamn fit. We already know why it was there too. It wasn't for the characters or the story, it was for us. It was forced in there for inclusivity and the message that comes with it. Inclusivity has become so forced that this is the shit you can expect, and don't even get me going as to what they're doing with the Netflix Witcher series or the Rings of Power series. Cope and seethe as much as you want, but that statement is dead on. Inclusivity needs to be manufactured because retards these days don't even look at characters like Claire, Florian, or Tony Prince as inclusive. They see them as problems, either too vague to be representative or too stereotypical to be respectful. And the only reason they're sometimes brought up now, as we near the closing of 2025, is because this movement has failed so fucking hard that they will literally take any crumb they can for it to hold on just a bit longer. That's why there's whole panels and presentations at Game Developers Conference to teach developers how to write, design, and present queer characters of various backgrounds. Excuse me, bitch, but if you have to go out of your way and create whole-ass departments in game studios, consultants for game studios, and classes to teach people how to write or present a character, then that only shows just how goddamn forced it is. Because it is extremely rare, extremely obscure, and frankly extremely uninteresting for anyone to even care to include it in the first place. And I know that after a rant like this, the response would just be, excuse me, gay people exist, because that's the new cope. It's been the cope throughout the entire goddamn post, pretending like this has anything to do with just the mere existence of sexuality, when we all know it doesn't. Gay is easy as pie to represent in a game. Again, you just write a normal character who happens to be gay. Case in point, once again, Dion from Final Fantasy XVI, or Carrie Ederveen from Cyberpunk 2077, or Dorian from Dragon Age Inquisition, you know, for smaller appearances that work perfectly within their worlds. Even in fantasy, you have, for example, that hunter in Witcher 3, a guy who was exiled from his village. As Geralt, you can pressure him into telling you why. Geralt does this because he suspects that it's because of lycanthropy, which if it is, as a Witcher, he can help him with a curse. Or, you know, cut his head off. But the hunter just rips the band-aid and says no, he was caught with another man. I think it was even the son of the Lord or whatever. That shit fits perfectly into that world. That is natural inclusion. But characters like Taj, characters like the trans NPC in Horizon Forbidden West who just comes out to you out of goddamn nowhere in the middle of a conversation about something else, and half of the garbage that we see these days, these don't work. They're fake, they're lazy, they're shoved in there as a goddamn virtue signal and nothing more. They will never be memorable or accepted like the previous three or the smaller random side characters that we found along the way as they enriched game worlds with authenticity. And now, yes, we can finally close the video off. Please let me know your thoughts on the topic down in the comments, but you know, keep it respectful, and yeah, that's about it. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed my ramblings today, give the video a like, dislike it if you didn't, and yeah, that's about it. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.